I've never been someone who pays much attention to flowers. I buy them on anniversaries, sometimes on her birthday, sometimes when I feel we've drifted too far apart and I want to pull us back into something warm and familiar. But I've never been the type to send extravagant bouquets for no reason. It's just not in my nature. I've always believed affection is shown through quiet things, remembering her favorite tea, fixing the loose cabinet door before she asked, warming up her car in winter. Flowers for me were symbols, not declarations, which is why, on an ordinary Thursday afternoon, when I heard a knock on the door and saw a courier holding the largest bouquet I had ever seen, my first thought wasn't jealousy. It was confusion. Slow, calm confusion. Like when you wake up in a room that looks like yours but somehow isn't. The day had been unremarkable in every possible way. A morning coffee that tasted slightly burnt, a long spreadsheet at work, the kind of mild weather that makes time feel suspended. Nothing about it set the stage for surprises. I opened the door. The courier said my wife's name, clearly, confidently, the way someone pronounces a name they've said out loud before, not something they're reading off a screen for the first time. I nodded out of habit, and he placed the bouquet in my hands. The bouquet wasn't just flowers. It was a statement. Rich, heavy roses, the color of aged Bordeaux wine, lilies that opened like quiet sighs, small white blossoms I couldn't identify that smelled faintly of citrus. The stems were wrapped in dark paper tied with a ribbon that looked almost too elegant for a simple delivery. The arrangement wasn't cheap. It was crafted, intentional, deliberate, designed to impress someone deeply. Attached to it was a small cream-colored card. On the front, a stylized monogram. 2 initials, not mine, not hers. The handwriting inside was short, almost shy. For you, you understand why. That was it. Not enough to accuse anyone of anything, but enough to make something sharpen inside my chest. I placed the bouquet gently on the kitchen counter and looked at the clock. She would be home in an hour. I had time to think, to observe, to remember. The house felt too quiet suddenly, like the walls were listening. Even the ticking of the clock seemed louder, each second stretching itself out as if it wanted to be noticed. The last few weeks had carried a quiet, subtle change. Not dramatic, not even suspicious in the usual sense, but just enough that I had noticed and then, as people in long relationships often do, convinced myself to ignore. She had been lighter somehow, brighter, more careful with her phone, not hiding it, just angling it away without thinking. She spent more time choosing outfits, even for small errands. She smiled at messages but never shared what they were about. She lingered in front of the mirror longer, adjusting tiny details she used to overlook. And most telling, she had begun to use a new cologne, one I didn't recognize. She said it was from a friend at work, a sample, nothing special, but fragrance has a way of lingering, and I'm not sure hers was ever entirely hers. Still, none of this explained a bouquet this grand. None of it explained the initials. None of it explained the strange, intimate message written with such certainty. I read it again, and again. The front door opened exactly at 5:42. She walked in with her usual tired smile, shaking off her coat, kicking off her shoes. She looked at me first, then at the bouquet. Her expression didn't fall, or freeze, or panic. Instead, her eyebrows rose just slightly as if she'd walked into an unexpected performance she didn't remember auditioning for. "What's this?" she asked. "A delivery," I said. "For you." She walked closer, her eyes scanning the arrangement. She touched one of the roses, her fingers brushing over the velvety petals with a softness that felt too practiced, too familiar. Then she looked at the card, and something flickered across her face. Not guilt exactly, not fear, but recognition. A tiny muscle in her cheek twitched. It was enough. "It must be a mistake," she said. "Probably one of those marketing things, or wrong address." Her explanation was too quick, too eager, the kind of answer someone gives before understanding the question. "Maybe," I said, "though the courier said your full name." She shrugged, but the movement was tight, stiff at the shoulders. "You know how these companies are. Probably some automated list." There was a moment of silence between us, a quiet, heavy kind of silence. She picked up the bouquet, carried it to the trash bin as if intending to throw it away entirely, then hesitated and placed it on the counter instead. Her movements were hurried, restless, not natural. "Don't let it bother you," she said. "Really, it's nothing." But the more she insisted, the more I felt something shifting inside me. Not anger, not yet, just understanding. Later that evening, around 8, there was another knock on the door. She was in the shower. The sound of water masked my steps as I opened it. It was the same courier. He exhaled, shoulders dropping with relief, as if he'd been thinking about this all evening. "Sir, sorry to bother you again. I realized I gave you the wrong card earlier. The sender contacted us asking if the correct delivery was confirmed. I wanted to double-check the recipient name." He held a small handheld device, the kind couriers use to scan and log deliveries, the screen glowing bluish in the hallway light. "Could I see the bouquet again?" he asked. I brought it to him, and he scanned the barcode attached to the wrapping. A screen popped up with the delivery details. Recipient. A name. A name that wasn't her legal name. Not even close. It was something intimate, soft, a private nickname I had never called her. A name with a tone of ownership, familiarity, comfort, the kind someone uses only in moments flanked by closeness. I stared at it for several seconds. "Is that the signature she used?" I asked quietly. The courier nodded. "Yes, that's what the sender submitted as her preferred recipient name." He said she'd recognize it. There it was, the final weight that tipped the balance. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't spam. This wasn't a mix-up in the system. This bouquet was meant for her in a way that was unmistakably personal. "Did she ever sign anything under this name?" I murmured, more to myself than to him. The courier frowned politely. "It's what was given to us. We just follow instructions." He apologized again and left. I closed the door and leaned against it for a moment, listening to the water running in the bathroom, hearing the faint echo of her humming, unaware that the truth had just walked up to our doorstep with perfect clarity. When she came out, wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, she saw me standing there with the device still in my hand, the screen glowing with her secret nickname. Her humming stopped. Her eyes widened, not in innocence, but in understanding that the moment she feared had arrived. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask questions. Questions are for people who still hope the answers might mend something. I simply turned the screen toward her. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The silence between us lasted longer than any argument could have. Finally, she whispered, "I can explain." But we both knew explanations aren't meant for people who have already chosen which parts of themselves to share and which parts to hide. I walked to the kitchen, sat down, and looked at the bouquet again. It was beautiful, too beautiful for what it represented. Flowers bloom fast, but they also fade fast. By morning, the petals still looked perfect, but something in the room had wilted beyond repair. I didn't tell her to leave. I didn't pack my bags either. Some endings don't require motion, just realization. And realization had already delivered itself. In a bouquet with a name that wasn't mine to say, but was hers to answer to. Dear subscribers, if you have a story you believe is worth sharing, feel free to send it to us by email, storytimelounge320@gmail.com. We'll be happy to take a look, and it just might become the story featured in our next video.